Ever since the House of Ideas became the House of Ideals, it just turned everybody off. So what are we going to do about it? Well, I've got an idea. Let's read some independent comic books and find out what's good out there. In this case, it's actually my brother. He read and reviewed every one of them that's present in this video. I'm just the narrator. So kick back, relax, enjoy, and see if anything actually appeals to you. And since there were no one-star books, we'll start with... The 2-star books are merely bad. There might be some saving grace that keeps them from being truly horrible. Bubblegum number 2. This comic is an attempt to bring an anime style to a comic book. Unfortunately, like most anime, it not only managed to bring the characteristic action to the comic, but to the characteristic weirdness also. The action is fun, but just this side of cartoonish. The characters often stop in the middle of an obvious tense action sequence to have a heart-to-heart talk about our emotions. And speaking of the characters, they all have mood swings so bad you'd think the entire cast suffered from bipolar disorder. And of course, you've got to have the long, boring expositionary villain speech that everyone stops to listen to that, if performed in real life, would take 8 or 9 minutes. Don't get me wrong, there are a few things that keep this book from being a 1-star, but those are few things are only enjoyable bits in the entire book. Jackpot number 6. Now this is a well-drawn book with some interesting action, but the story itself is so confusing that even when you think you have a handle on it, you don't. You just don't. But here's my best guess. A group of con artists and thieves have been recruited to do a job, not realizing that there's some sort of rogue trickster god pulling the strings, using them as disposable meat when needed. There are no likable characters here, and no reason to care about what happens to anyone, because by the end of this issue, every one of the main characters have been murdered and replaced by an exact duplicate. Confused yet? The only thing keeping this from being a 1-star book is the art, which, as I said before, is actually really well done. The 3-star books. Now, these are the ones that are average. They didn't elicit a response from us, good or bad. All New Soulfire number 4. So, I've got to say, this title is perhaps the most frustrating combination of interesting story ideas and absolutely, almost arrogantly overwrought, pretentious dialogue. Malachi, the magical community's equivalent of Jesus Christ, is beginning to realize that his mentor, Rainier, might be more accurately be called his jailer, and Pill decides to take direct action to free the captive wizards so they can help Malachi reach his full potential as the savior of all magical beings. This issue was pretty good read despite the opaque dialogue, but the story isn't going to make sense to anyone who hasn't read the previous 3 issues. But at least the art is decent. Angel Season 11, number 6. So while traveling through time, Angel and Fred encounter Angel's past self, Angelus, and his sire Darla, while the two are hidden on a ship making the transatlantic journey. Now there's not much story here. A monstrous zombie-making beetle attacks the crew. There are several pointless fights between the vampires, and of course Fred turns into Illyria and saves the day. It isn't horrible or anything, but the truth is it's just not exactly exciting either. In fact, there's not much to recommend this book at all other than sure, why not? Read it if you have the time. There have been better Angel stories, and I'm pretty sure there's going to be better ones in the future as well. Charmed number 4, where the Charmed ones continue their battle with the demon Jal. Now, the first half of this book explains why Jal is a different enemy entirely, by showing us the history of how he became a demon in the first place. He was once an artist who never got recognition he wanted because of politics. Eventually, his anger and frustration caused him to murder his enemies. This part of the book is actually very well done. It's intriguing. The rest, however, is not quite so. It's a standard, oh my god, something bad is happening, so let's all go there, throw magic potions at it, and it's your typical Charmed plot. And the inconsistency, it kind of plagues the Charmed title for the last several issues, and unfortunately, there's no end to that in sight. Letter 44, number 34, the final issue of this series, to be honest, is a bit of an anticlimax, but then since the writers explicitly told everyone exactly how the story would end, and then it ended exactly as they said it would, why is that a surprise? The Builders, a powerful race of aliens, came to the planet Earth to build structures that would help stop the ending of the entire universe. Unfortunately, even with the structures, the Earth and its billions of people would still be destroyed. And that's precisely what happens in this issue. As the book progresses, more and more of the Earth is covered by the deadly radiation effect that will soon reduce it to a massive ball of ash. And the only dialogue is one writer's thoughts on whether anyone will remember the humans once the rest of the universe is saved. It's not as excited or as deep as it sounds, unfortunately, but it's better than and less schmaltzy than it could have been. The 4-star books. Now we're getting to the good stuff, the stuff we can actually recommend. Black Hammer number 10. Confusion and frustration are the words of the day as the Golden Age heroes strive to deal with modern attitudes. Abraham Slam attempts to recapture his glory days, but finds the young hipster superheroes are just too fast. Not to mention too full of themselves to deal with. While Mark finds out that increased acceptance of his sexuality in general does not mean that everyone who tolerates him being gay approves of him being gay. It is a complex story and well worth the read, but it's better to begin at the beginning of the series in order to get all of the references. Britannia, We Who Are About to Die number 3. With the help of slave-turned-gladiator Aquilia, Antonius Axia escapes the arena still on the hunt for the sorceress Elisa, who has kidnapped Antonius' son for use as a puppet. But is Alicia merely a front for games being played by the god Apollo? We're name dropping a lot here. This issue is a good read, but the dialogue is a bit opaque and dense. The action scenes are well done, though one ends up a bit too abruptly in my view. It's going to take you 2 or 3 readings to get to really understand what's going on, but once you do, it is actually a very good book. Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 11, Number 8. Buffy the Vampire Slayer Season 11, Number 8. Buffy and Willow, having been depowered by the government in exchange for their freedom, have discovered that the government is using the captured magical power for a nefarious reason. Now needing to get out from under the thumb of the governmental surveillance, they enlist the aid of Riley, Sam, and a still empowered Faith the Vampire Slayer to get answers. Even though this issue was a bit dialogue heavy, there were some very taut and exciting scenes, and the fight between the Thug and Buffy made the point that even without super strength, someone who has been training in hand-to-hand combat for 10 years is a dangerous person to piss off. This is the kind of writing that makes you hungry for the next issue. Judge Dredd, number 385. This issue is, of course, an anthology with 5 separate stories, and to be honest, the 5 stories couldn't have been any more different. The first story, The Third Person, details Dredd's encounter with a psychic who uncontrollably narrates everything that happens around her, including things that logically she should never even be able to know about. It's a fun little detective story featuring a girl with a really interesting superpower, and for once, Dredd isn't just the antagonistic jerk he is constantly portrayed as. This is also the best tale in the book. The second story is bite-sized, and to be honest, the only thing saving it is the fact that it's short. It has some fun moments, but most of those are derived from the art, not the story. Then comes Haven, the worst story of the 5. This is confusing, muddled, and a little bit too bizarre, kind of like a German impressionist art house comic book. Bizarre and violent images are all throughout this story, and it means nothing to us if we have no protagonist or even a hook to latch onto for us to care about what's going on. NWO, a story about Judge Anderson, is purely vanilla, and you'll forget you read about it 10 minutes after you read it. And finally we have Long Range War, which is a really well done space western involving a judge assigned as a marshal on one of Earth's colony worlds. Exciting, fun, kind of a western and futuristic feeling. It is easily the second best story of the book, and the sheer quality of The Third Person and this story gives the book the 4 stars. The 5-star books, the best of the best for at least this week. These are the ones that are at the top of the heap. Anno Dracula number 4. Now, Christina Light reveals that she's not only an anti-Dracula rebel, but that she's completely insane, fanatical Dracula hater. But the question remains, is she wrong to be that fanatical? And exactly why is Catherine Reed playing both sides against the middle? The story moves along at an exciting pace without sacrificing plot for action scenes, and the simultaneously gives us dialogue that furthers the plot without bogging down the action. It's the perfect balancing act. And the throwaway cameos by so many of the pulp era's most famous Gothic villains is just icing on the cake. This issue continues to live up the fantastic premise of the entire series, and I can't wait to see the finale next issue. God Country number 6. So this series ends on a high note as Emmett Quinlan uses the power of Valifax, the god of blades, incarnated into a very, very powerful sword to confront Atum and stop Atum from turning all of Earth into his new kingdom. This story is epic. It delves into the meaning of being a god, the meaning of being a man, just what fealty men owe to gods, and even more importantly, what do the gods owe to the men who created them. And I have to confess, the art is a little choppy in the end, but in the end, I think it fit the story much more than it distracted from it. The writing is on point, however, and the dialogue is amazing. Star Trek Boldly Go number 9. So this was such a fun book. This book is set after the events of Star Trek Beyond, and it does a really good job of keeping the feel of both that movie and the other two films in the J.J. Abrams Trek reboot. While the Enterprise is being rebuilt, Spock and Uhura are taking some time out to visit New Vulcan. It's the home of the survivors of the Vulcan species since their planet got destroyed in the first film. The entire story is about their building relationship, especially the pressures repopulating the species and rebuilding the political power the Vulcans once enjoyed. And Spock's dad wants them to get married. This is one of those books that it's just pure, unadulterated fun. You could easily see it being one of the actual episodes of a Star Trek show. Very good book. Hey kids, what'd you think? Those were all the books that my brother read and reviewed. Did you read some and agree or disagree with them? Or how about, were there any that made you think, yeah, I want to check that out, or hey, okay, I'm glad I didn't pick that up? Let us know in the comments below. Also, if you like this video, you want to see more of these independent comic reviews, please click like, please share so we could get the numbers up on these and make sure that they're worthwhile. And if you haven't already, just hit subscribe and the notification bell so you don't miss anything. Also, we have started a Patreon account. The link is in the description below. Go on over, drop $1 in the till. Good things happen. And for those who already did, Jesse Novacek, Sky Roseboom, and the Patriot Cat, thank you very, very much for helping us out. And to them and everybody else, thank you very, very much for watching.
Lantern has his special ring. Pretty strong, that little thing. Blue Beetle's deeds are really swell. But who will bring him out of his shell? Flash his bows, they finish last.